The Orange County Forum is a nonprofit organization. Your contributions are tax deductible.
How's everybody doing this morning? Come on, come on. I know we can do better. I know it's early. How's everybody doing this morning? Well, thank you all so much for coming. I know I have a ton of supporters in the room and a ton of friends, not just over the last 6 years as I've been elected as a state assemblyman, but for the whole 2 decades that I've lived here in Orange County plus. I first came here, I'm thinking back, I think it was about 1993 to Orange County. And the reason I came is I was living in Hawaii at the time. I was a college kid, and I thought, maybe I'd go to University of Hawaii. I was a big surfer, and I was living in Hawaii, and everything was great, except the Hawaiians had this nickname for me. And does anybody have any idea what the nickname might have been? Haole. That's exactly right. So haole, according to the Hawaiians, means outsider. But if anybody's ever been called a haole, you really know that it means white boy that doesn't belong in our waves, right? So I called up a good friend of mine that I'd known from Cal State LA, and he was living in Huntington Beach. And I said, look, I'm really thinking about coming back to California. And he said, look, I live in Huntington Beach. This place is Surf City, USA. It's like heaven on earth. We have, unlimited bars and restaurants, lots of great looking people, lots of waves. I mean, you can't go wrong. It's like the endless summer every single day here. And I don't know, that sounded pretty good to me at the time. I was about 20 years old, and it still sounds great to me today. So when I moved, that's just where I stayed. And Huntington Beach truly is, raise your hand, anybody maybe been down to the beach bonfire in Huntington Beach, right? I know Barbara Del Glaze has. It's just this phenomenal place, and I've lived there and worked there for over the last 20 years. I'm actually in the Guinness Book of World Records for surfing on the biggest surfboard ever created with the most number of people. That's right. It's just a fantastic place. And I started my business right here in the South Coast metro area. I was originally an investment advisor with A.G. Edwards & Sons. I started in 1996 over at Levita in Maine, diagonally across from Chalk. And that was a great, great firm. And after about 5 or 6 years, I realized that I was one of the youngest guys, I was one of the biggest producers, and I was working more than everybody else. So I left and I opened up my own company in 2001. I opened it right around the South Coast Plaza area. I know we had a member from the Symphony over here. I was in the center tower. I was up on the 18th floor. And it was just a great place to work and do business. And eventually, I managed my money around here. I did well for my clients, but I started to notice that there was something going on in California, and everything maybe wasn't so great because my parents, you see, had left the state. We all started down in San Diego, where I was born and raised. I was raised in a little town called Chula Vista, about 5 minutes from the border. But as I was living up here in Huntington Beach and managing money in Orange County and having a great time of it, my parents decided that they wanted to build a home, and it was too expensive to build on the coast in Carmel, so they did it on the Southern Oregon coast. So they left the state. And my brother worked for Raytheon, and those jobs used to be in El Segundo, but they had moved over to Tucson, Arizona. So that's where he moved with his family. And then I noticed that my best friend had left. He took his family out to Texas, where he doubled the size of his house, double the size of his business, and pays no state income tax. My other friend moved out to Puerto Rico. He left the country entirely. But it wasn't just my friends and family. You see, I started managing money in 1996, opened my company in 2001, and my clients all originally were in California. But they had now moved to 22 different states around the nation. They had left, their jobs had left, their companies had left. Raise your hand real quick. Who here was born and raised in California? Right? And everyone here is a California resident, I'm guessing. Who here knows anybody who's left our state? Who here has ever thought about leaving the state yourself? Right? This is the problem. So I looked around and everybody was leaving. And I realized, Texas might have this really great business environment, but unless there's a hurricane, there's no waves in Texas. So, I'm kind of stuck. I got to stay right here. But if I was going to stay, I was going to have to do something about it. So I had known a number of congressmen, great people like our Ed Royce and Dana Rohrabacher. I'd helped out a presidential candidate who unfortunately couldn't remember the names of all the state agencies or the government agencies he wanted to get rid of. Patrick's laughing. You might remember Rick Perry, great governor, ran a great state, Texas, with a great economy. couldn't remember the name of, I think it was the Department of Education that he wanted to get rid of. And I don't hold that against him, but at that point it was kind of clear that he was no longer going to be a viable presidential candidate. So then I helped out Mitt Romney. I did 25 stops around the country with Mitt. I even flew to Jerusalem when he gave his foreign policy speech in Israel, one of the best foreign policy speeches I've ever heard by any presidential candidate. But while I was helping him out, I realized, wait a second, even if Mitt Romney wins, it might not affect California, right? This wave might not come up over the Rockies. And, what if he doesn't win? And it turns out he didn't win, right? Because in the second debate, he couldn't remember to bring up one word, Benghazi, and actually go after Obama on foreign policy and all of his other massive failures. So he took a 5% lead and essentially lost it in the second debate, and he lost the presidential race. Fortunately, I had decided that I was going to take matters in my own hands because truly, you can't really leave, what's going on in society to somebody else. If you feel that you have the ability and the drive and the passion to do something, it's incumbent upon you to do it. Raise your hand. I know we have a couple elected officials. Raise your hand if we have any elected officials in the room today. There we go. Let's give all these people a hand. It's not easy. And we live in a great county, and it's still not easy. So, I put my name in to run for a California Assembly seat. This was a seat previously held by Van Tran and Jim Silva. I know we have a bunch of friends here in the room. And this seat was a state assembly seat. It's like the State Congress of California. There was another local guy that was running for this seat. He was also a Republican. He was a local small town mayor. His problem was he wouldn't sign a little piece of paper called a no new tax pledge. And this pledge was very simple. It said, when you get elected to Sacramento, you will never raise taxes on the voters and on the people of California. And I thought this was very easy to sign because California has among the highest taxes in the nation. Highest income tax, highest sales tax, and one of the highest, gas taxes and corporate taxes anywhere in the entire country. We are basically taxed to death in California. So I thought, this makes no sense. Why would you want to raise taxes? I mean, one of the principal things that we believe in as Republicans is common sense. And common sense dictates that if people have more money in their pocket, they're going to spend it on themselves, their businesses, their homes, etc. All this money goes back into the economy and we're all made better off. The government simply redistributes that money, and it's not a very good redistributor of funds. So this guy wouldn't sign the no new tax pledge, and I went after him. And everybody thought he was going to win. He outspent me 2 or 3 times to 1. He had almost every single endorsement here locally and up in Sacramento. And I beat this guy. I beat this guy pretty badly. We got a couple people here that might remember that race intimately. I beat him by 16,000 votes, over 11%. He never actually successfully ran for any higher office after that, and I never looked back. Once I got to Sacramento, I've been there for 6 years. I kept every single promise that I'd made to every single one of my constituents, which was I have never voted to raise any taxes. I fought against every single tax increase in California. There you go. I have a 100% vote record from the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association, from the California Taxpayers Association, from the National Federation of Independent Businesses. I know we have the realtors in the room. I know I always get great marks on your scorecards. Also all of the Second Amendment stuff and personal freedoms, but these votes are simple. You see, because these votes are all just common sense. So for the last 6 years, I have fought for what makes sense in California. I have fought for the 39 million Californians that truly have been left behind by 39 of the last 40 years of Democrats running the state legislature. If you don't like having among the nation's highest taxes, if you don't like driving on the second worst roads in the nation, in the very worst traffic in the nation, if you don't like the fact that our schools are now among the worst in the nation when they used to be among the best, if you don't like the fact that we're constantly stuck in droughts and never seem to be able to build enough water storage, there is one reason. It's because the California Democrats have run California in the legislature for 39 of the last 40 years. And the Jerry Brown family has run California for 24 of almost the last 50 years. So when I got to Sacramento in 2012, I said, I want to change this. I was very quickly given an education that the Democrats run everything, you see, because when I got there in 2012, the Democrats had more power than they ever had since any time since the 1880s. All of the constitutional offices, as well as supermajorities in the Senate and supermajorities in the Assembly. Within 6 months, I decided it wasn't enough just to press that no button. I've actually pressed that no button so many times on my desk in Sacramento, I broke it last year. I hit it and it flew off of my desk, true story. So within 6 months, I decided, look, I'm going to do everything I promised to my constituents, but it's not going to be enough because there's just far too many Democrats. It's a one-party system. There's no balance left in California. So I started campaigning up and down the state to get Republicans elected. The first thing I did, and you may have heard the story, but I'll tell you very briefly, there was a race in the middle of the Central Valley. There was a Democrat senator by the name of Michael Rubio. This guy was a socialist, right? Business was bad. All of these things that you would imagine from the California Democrats, he embodied. However, late one night, he got a call from Chevron Oil. And they said, hey, Mike, how about you come be a lobbyist for Big Bad Oil? And thank God, overnight, this socialist was converted into a capitalist. And he became a lobbyist for Chevron. And so for that, I said, God bless you, brother. But what that did is it created an opening. It was a special election for a 22% Democrat-favored seat. And it was late one night, about 11:30. I was eating tacos with a couple of buddies of mine. One was a state assemblyman and the other was his chief of staff. And we were at his kitchen counter. And they were bemoaning how terrible it was in Sacramento. Raise your hand if you ever had this conversation, how terrible things are in California, and don't we wish we could do something about it, right? So these guys were, griping. They were just complaining. I said, guys, why don't we stop complaining? Let's do something about this. There is this race in the middle of Central Valley. It's in Hanford, Lemoore, Kings County, Delano, California. It was in the middle of summer, 96-degree heat, 93% humidity. Beautiful place, beautiful time of year. And I said, there's a special election, and I know it's a 22% favored Dem seat, but our polling says that we got this guy by the name of Andy Vidak, and he has just the slightest chance to win. And sitting up here in Sacramento at 11:30 at night eating tacos, we can't change a thing in California. But what if we go down to the Central Valley, and what if I knock on 5 doors, and you knock on 5 doors, and you knock on 5 doors? Maybe those 15 votes are all that we need to get this guy elected. And they looked at me kind of like you're looking at me right now. Like, sure, Travis, whatever. Well, I got a little loud, and I kept on talking, and I might have pounded on the table, a number of times. And by 1:30 at night, whether they were tired or I'd totally broken them down, they just threw their hands up. They said, look, Travis, as long as you stop talking, we'll do whatever you want tomorrow, right? And so I got them. They said, you lead, we'll follow. So within 1 week, my buddy's friend, his chief of staff, had secured an $800,000 independent expenditure from, you better believe it, the California Realtors. Let's hear it for the Realtors. And with that $800,000, he started the professional walk organization to go knock on doors. I took the volunteer organization. I brought 500 volunteers to the middle of Central Valley in the middle of summer, 96-degree heat, 93% humidity. I was wearing my suit, and we started knocking on doors. And you better believe that we got Andy Vidak, a Republican, elected in a 22% Dem-favored district and showed the Democrats that they were no longer invulnerable, and we were getting started on winning in California. Now, this race didn't change anything. They still had the supermajority. They still had all the constitutional offices, but it changed everything because that very next day, Republicans around the Capitol started walking with their chins up a little bit higher, their shoulders out a little bit, because all of a sudden the Democrats weren't invincible. And we actually had a shot if all we would do is stand up and advocate for what is right and what makes sense for ordinary Californians. 6 months later, I was sitting in my office and I was reading the newspaper and I was reading about my hometown of San Diego. There was a mayor down there. His name was Bob Filner. But you see, the newspapers had a more colorful name for him. Does anybody remember this guy? Filthy Filner, right? They called him Filthy Filner because he had sexually harassed over 20 different women. So we threw this guy out of office, and what did this create? Yet another chance for a special election. I called up my volunteers and I said, look, you guys walked with me in 96-degree heat and 93% humidity in the middle of summer in the middle of Central Valley. How about you come on down and walk and knock on some doors in La Jolla and Pacific Beach with me, and let's go have some fun. They answered the call. I took 600 volunteers down to San Diego, and we got Kevin Faulconer elected, the only Republican mayor in the top 10 cities in the United States. And yes, you should clap for that too. I took my volunteer army to 14 other races up and down the state. We won almost every single race. I decided that volunteers weren't enough, so I formed my own professional walk army that had over 800 people on the ground in 2014. Of the 12 races we were in statewide, including Janet Wen here locally, we won 11 of the 12 races, and we broke the supermajority in the Senate, and we broke the supermajority in the Assembly, because when you fight in California, you win. So since then, I've run 20 different campaigns up and down the state. I've sat in the legislature for the last 6 years, and I have voted every single time for every single one of you in the room, fighting against every tax increase, every crazy law of Jerry Brown and the California Democrats, including this ridiculous illegal sanctuary state where we are sheltering people who are in the state illegally that are committing crimes while they're here with your taxpayer dollars. I voted against all of these things. I have developed the largest social media platform of any Republican in the state of California. Raise your hand if you're on Facebook. Raise your hand if you're following me at Join Travis Allen. Raise your hand if you're going to follow me at Join Travis Allen. Great. So this week we're reaching over 3 million Californians. Last week we reached 4.2 million Californians. I have more traffic going through my social media than any other politician, Republican or Democrat, in the state of California. We're reaching people. I'm doing about 20 to 25 media appearances every single week. But you see, all of these things, they're not enough, because as I sat on the assembly floor just earlier last year, I sat there when Jerry Brown broke his promise. His promise was very simple: no new taxes without voter approval. That's how he got elected in 2010, right? Remember, he said not only no new taxes without voter approval, we all believed, or at least people that voted for him, that he was the fiscal moderate in the room. He was the adult in the room, right? This is how adult Jerry Brown was. He took the state general fund from $86 billion when he was elected. That's how much the state general fund was in 2010. To up over $131 billion today, an increase of over $45 billion, an increase of almost 50% of your taxpayer dollars. That's how fiscally conservative Jerry Brown is. He's spending 50% more money of your money since he got elected. So this is no surprise then when last year he breaks his word, bribes 4 legislators $1 billion to raise the largest gas tax ever in California's history. So I sat there on the floor, as you'd imagine. I pressed my no button. I made my speech. I wrote my op-eds. I was on the media. I was on social media. My videos were seen by millions of people, but it didn't matter. It couldn't stop him. So right after that vote, I called up my attorney, and I was the original author of the repeal of the gas tax, and that is exactly what we're going to do. We will repeal Jerry's tax in November 2018. What do you say about that? Now, that's not the end of that fun story. So as soon as I filed the repeal, I put it to the Attorney General. The Attorney General is the hand-picked Attorney General of Jerry Brown. His name's Javier Becerra. He was never elected. He was a Democrat leader out of Congress, and Jerry, basically just plucked him out of Congress when Kamala Harris went on to the Senate, and he placed him in his position. This gas tax is a $52 billion payday for Sacramento. Lots and lots of money for lots of special interests. So you better believe they're trying to defend it. So I sent in my repeal to the Attorney General. He comes back 65 days later with a title and summary. And as you would imagine, it should say, this is the repeal of the gas tax, very simply. It didn't say that. As a matter of fact, it was about 17 words or so designed to confuse every single voter in California, so they would never repeal this gas tax, because $52 billion was at stake. So what did I do? I picked up my phone, I called my attorney again. I said, let's go sue this guy. We sued him in Superior Court and we won. The Superior Court judge said that he was trying to lie to the California people so badly, he took the title and summary out of his hands, rewrote it himself, and forced Javier Becerra to use the real definition, which is, this is the repeal of the gas tax. He wouldn't let it stand at that. He took it to the appellate court, which is pretty liberal, as you might imagine. They overturned that decision. I took him to the Supreme Court in California. Unfortunately, Jerry Brown appointed 3 justices to the Supreme Court. They refused to even hear my case. Guys, this is what we're up against in California. The political system is broken. It has turned into a one-party state run out of the Bay Area, San Francisco. The legal system is broken. There is no justice in California because there is no balance in Sacramento. And this is the problem. So after 6 months of fighting with the Attorney General, with his unlimited taxpayer dollars coming out of my pocket and your pocket, to fight this repeal of the gas tax, I said, look, there's a competing measure that's already gotten 400,000 signatures. How about I just join on with them and let's make sure we get theirs on the ballot? That's exactly what I did. So I teamed up with the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, and I am pleased to announce that we are well on our way to making sure that a repeal of the gas tax will show up on your ballot in November 2018, giving Californians the right to stop our tax increases. So with the picture I painted, I think you can understand that I was born and raised right here in California. I love our state. I got elected, and I didn't get elected because there's any glory in being a politician. You know, when I tell people when I walk down the street that I'm a state assemblyman, they say, oh, that's really cool. What do you assemble for the state, right? I mean, we all know that if you want the nicest seat at the table, you just pay for it. If you want a politician to be your friend, you just give them money. If you truly need to change the world, believe you can change the world, the only way to do it is to go get yourself elected and to change things. So after 6 years in the California legislature, I have fought at every single juncture, inside the Capitol on the legislative floor, in the public sphere on media and social media. I have fought and run campaigns up and down the state, and we've won almost every single campaign we've ever participated in. But you know what? It is not enough, because the Democrats, there's more of them. There's more registered Democrats in the state of California. They still have, even though they don't have a supermajority because of their sexual harassment allegations now in the California legislature, they still have majorities in both houses. The only way to stop them, the only way to finally take back our state and change this state is to take the top seat. It's to become the next governor of the state of California. And I'm here to tell you that's exactly what we're going to do. So first, let me say, when I make that statement, a lot of people say, Travis, that all sounds really good, but how is that possible? How can you actually do that? Well, let me explain. When Jerry Brown got elected in 2014, he got elected with 4.3 million votes. In 2016, Donald Trump just got 4.4 million votes. So literally, if we had just turned out the Trump voters in 2014, we would have a Republican governor in the state of California. We're going to do a lot more than that in 2018, and we will have a Republican. Does anybody believe it's possible? Let's hear it. Now, how is this possible? How is this possible, right? Because the Democrats there's so many more Democrats in the state of California. How is it possible a Republican could ever get elected? It's the issues, and the issues are very clear, and they're very simple. The Democrats have gone too far. The California Democrat Party is run out of the Bay Area of San Francisco. You do not have to take my word for it. Who here remembers history? Remember Tammany Hall? Reading about that, the corrupt Democrat political machine in New York City? What about Richard Daley's Chicago, right? Well, these are all relics of the past, right? Absolutely not. De Blasio runs the New York machine. Rahm Emanuel runs the Chicago machine. And you better believe that Jerry Brown, Nancy Pelosi, Barbara Boxer, Dianne Feinstein, Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom run the San Francisco, California political machine. And it is that machine that we are going to break this year in November of 2018. Now, these Bay Area liberal elite Democrats don't believe in what every other Californian believes in. They don't run the state for the benefit of every Californian, because if they did, 1 in 5 Californians wouldn't be living below the poverty line. We would not have the nation's highest poverty rate. The Central Valley would have plenty of water, as would we down in Southern California, and we wouldn't be stuck on the second worst roads in the nation and the worst traffic in the nation. It's very simple. You take a look at what's coming up. If the Democrats have their way, who do they want? They want Gavin Newsom, right? He is the anointed next in line by Jerry Brown. He's been waiting for 8 years to be governor. He just announced he has $19 million in cash, as well as the support of Hillary Clinton, as well as support of, you guessed it, George Soros, right? Think about this for a second. This is what they want. Now, what does Gavin Newsom stand for? He loves the gas tax. As a matter of fact, he's ready to raise taxes even further to pay for his best idea, which is single-payer, government-run health care. This means that you don't get to keep your doctor. You want medical care, you got to go to the DMV. Or what's even better, because the government-run healthcare works so well, let's have the Veterans Administration take care of it for the state of California, right? This is what Gavin Newsom wants. The cost is $400 billion a year that will bankrupt the state in the first 6 months. They love the gas tax. They want single-payer health care, and they want this illegal sanctuary state. Remember, the sanctuary state is a very simple and very, very bad concept. It is the illegal concept that people who are here in our state illegally that are committing crimes while they are here will be sheltered with your taxpayer dollars. I will tell you right now that this is illegal, it is unconstitutional, and it is a crime to every single Californian. Republicans came up with a plan 2 years ago, save $7 billion out of the state budget of just waste and excess. Put that into our roads so we are no longer stuck in the worst of the nation freeways with the worst in the nation traffic. Very simply, I just got married in 2016. Never married before. I waited till I found the absolute perfect girl, and I did. She's perfect inside and out. We got married in, I got to look at my ring, but it's September 16th of 2016. And actually, no, September 17th. I was off by one day. It's always better to be early, by the way, on the anniversary than late. And I guess my mother probably thought I was never going to get married, but I waited till I found just the perfect one. And she's just a wonderful person. But I'm a pretty good negotiator. So when I got married, I picked up an 8-year-old daughter in the deal. And then we just had our very own first baby daughter that was born back in November. So I now have 2 daughters. And I want them to be raised right here in California. And then my 8-year-old daughter goes to California public school, just like I did. Raise your hand if you went to public school in California. Used to be among the best schools in the nation. Now ranked among the worst. Our kids are 46th and 47th in reading and math. Only 30% of our 9th graders are expected to complete a 4-year institution. I want my daughters to grow up here in California. I want them to go to public schools, and I demand that those are the best public schools in California. Our parents must have accountability. They have to be able to send their kids to the best schools in the nation. We have to make sure that bad teachers are fired, good teachers are rewarded, and that you can go to whatever school you like, whether it's charter or public. Do you agree? And lastly, I know we have a couple water people in the room. Who do we have here that's involved with water? I know we got a bunch. Right? Water's a big deal, especially here in Southern California. We're going to do Poseidon's desalination plant right here in Huntington Beach so we can expand our water portfolio. But here's the problem. California has plenty of water, but they have not built any new water storage significantly for decades. California must complete the state water project. This doesn't mean that we steal water from Northern California. It doesn't mean that we drain the Delta, and it's certainly not those Delta tunnels that Jerry Brown's proposed but never built, much like his bullet train to nowhere, which we must stop immediately and return the money back to the California taxpayers. We must complete the California State Water Project, and what that means is we must start rebuilding our water infrastructure, building water storage up and down the state of California, above ground and below ground, so we never have to worry about droughts again in the state. We can do it, and we will do it right here in California. Ladies and gentlemen, I have taken up a lot of your time, but I will tell you, you are going to wake up in June 6th of this year, just a few months away. You're going to look down at the OC Register. In big, bold, black letters, it's going to say in that paper, Travis Allen challenges Gavin Newsom to be the next governor of the state of California. The byline is going to read, polling shows that they're within single digits or low double digits of each other. As soon as you read that, within days, nationwide, Republicans will understand that they have the opportunity to take the governor's seat in the state of California. This doesn't just change our state. This changes the entire country for a generation. This will be the hottest race in the entire country. My name is Travis Allen, and I'm telling you right now, I'm going to win that race. I will be your next governor. Thank you very much.
Generous support of the Orange County Register and our sustaining partners. For more information about the Orange County Forum, call 949-588-9884. The Orange County Forum is a nonprofit organization. Your contributions are tax deductible.